Hey guys, it's Misty with My Paper Cuts, and I am back on today because as I started working with my bin, I realized that I forgot one of my favorite and most important tips to make this system work. Um, if you don't have like the perfect setup to where these trays in the bottom are there to support all of this from sliding, and I know you guys all know what I mean. The bottom of these bins are very slick, so these papers tend to slide forward. Sometimes they'll flat forward, but they usually will just slide underneath and just come forward, and that can be frustrating when you have these trays and everything in there. So my most favorite way to prevent that from happening is to use a silicone or a grippy shelf liner. So these are the two that I use the most often. This is my favorite. This is the one from IKEA. It's clear and it has these nubs on it, and it's really thick, and it doesn't have anything on the back. It's very smooth, but it does definitely stick down in the bottom, and it makes just for a great surface to keep things from moving around and sliding. On a budget, you can also use the one from Dollar Tree, and actually the one from Dollar Tree for these particular bins is almost the perfect width. It's just wide enough to work. So I will cut that and put that in the bottom of the bin, and it will keep everything from sliding around. And then what's the easiest about using this option is that you can just leave it in there for when you store it. So you can just, put everything down on top of it. It keeps things from shifting around in the box too much on the bottom. So it's just a nice feature to have if you're going to, set up your box to use it the way that I have. There's a couple more options that you can do to keep this stuff from coming forward if you don't have enough stuff, or if you want to move these trays out and keep everything standing upright. So the first option would be to use a box or a basket, and it would fit down in there, and you could just segment out your box. And you could also do a like a lid sorter. I don't know, or it goes inside your cabinet to hold the pots and pans lids standing upright like this so that they don't take up as much room. And they usually are just like a wood base with like wooden dowels sticking up. And you could put that down in the bottom and put your paper in those sections, and that would keep it standing up. The only disadvantage to using those types of things is that you have to take them back out before you store it. It's up to you. It depends on what you're comfortable with and what you have around the house. You could also use those little stoppers or the furniture protectors. They look like a big glue blob, or you can get the felt pad ones, and then you could just stick them into the bottom of your bin, and that would keep that from sliding forward. It's just basically a stopper. So that is also an option. You could use those spring-loaded, what are they called? The curtain rods. And you could find one that fits across the inside of your box. And I know the smaller ones can be harder to find, but usually you can collapse them down pretty small. But you could just use a spring-loaded box. Now, if you have a lot of paper, that might not be strong enough to hold. But one of my favorite things, and I've done this before when I have quite a bit of paper, is I will take two of binder clips, and I will put them on the sides, or like bulldog clips, however you want to call them. Put them on the sides, like so, like across, I can't really reach, across from each other here, and then run a dowel through the handle so that, and I don't have anything handy for that, but you could just put a dowel there, and that will also serve as a stopper to keep that stuff from sliding forward. So those are some options for keeping that stuff from sliding and causing havoc in your box, and make these trays more removable so that when you want them on your desk, they can be on your desk. When you don't, you can just drop them right back down in there. So I think that covers that tip. Yes. So I'm going to move this out of the way because I also had another question on one of the videos, and that was regarding my stamps and dies. So I do store my stamps and dies separately. I follow Jennifer McGuire's system. I believe she still does this. But I do have to preempt this with saying that my weakness is stamps. Now, I love paper. I tend to buy paper more on a whim, especially at Tuesday morning, because it's so inexpensive, and I tend to buy paper there that I don't even like, but the deal is too good to pass up. But when it comes to stamps, that is my weakness. It is, to me, it is the most gratifying process for me. I love to stamp and color and cut those images out and turn them into cards and tags. It is my favorite thing to do, and so I do collect a lot of stamps and dies. I'm getting better about not buying as many dies. I do not shop on Ally. I have never shopped on Ally. I do have a couple of stamps and dies that I know were from Ally, and I have a couple that I think are from Ally, but I bought them either in D-stashes or in like yard sales or garage sales or something. But I have never supported Ally. I won't get into that whole controversy because I know it's a sensitive subject with people. I just really honestly believe in supporting our local companies and our smaller businesses. So I am really big into stamping, and so I have a lot. I have several of these bins, and I sort them by theme. Again, it's kind of the same. A lot of them, this is a little more micro themed than my bins are, but I do have a theme to match every bin of paper crafting supplies that I have. So I do this with my stamps and my dies. This is one of those fridge bins with the divider in the middle. It holds these stamp pockets perfectly. I always put my stamps inside these, whether it be a single stamp or there's always like 1 to a package. I keep the packaging so I know who this is or who the company is. And sometimes I will label them. I did stop doing that because those label maker refills are very expensive, and I can keep the packaging so I can see whose it is. And the chance of me remembering exactly what that stamp looks like just by seeing that name is not very high. So I'm going to be pulling it up to look at it anyway. So I just keep the packaging. I will still add a label if there is no packaging indicating the brand, again, like if I picked it up from a yard sale or something, but this is how I store. And then for my dies, I store them the exact same way. And for both, there are larger packages as well, like the 6x9 stamp sets, and they are just in a larger bin, and again, sorted by theme. So like right now, I grabbed this bin because it has some of my Valentine loves themed back here. So normally what I will do when it comes to a holiday and I'm crafting for a holiday is I will pull out this section of stamps and this section of dies, you know, in that bin. And I will put them into either another one of these clear containers on my desk, or I've also been known to use just a box from Amazon. For some reason I get this size box a lot, and it's perfect for having this and the little bit larger size stamps and dies inside. And then I'll cut these flaps off, and I'll just put all my stamps and dies that I'm using for Valentine's Day inside this box. And this box will either sit on the floor or up on my desk depending on how I'm feeling at that particular moment. And all my stamps and dies that are the appropriate theme for the holiday are right there. Now I will say that for Christmas I do have a plethora of stamps and dies. That is the holiday that I buy things most for. I do craft sales, and I do sell quite a few cards at Christmas time. So I always make in multiples, and I'm always looking for something new, new sentiments, new shapes. So I don't store my Christmas stuff like this. I have a dedicated Raskog cart from IKEA that is solely for Christmas. And the top shelf is full of stamps, and the second shelf is full of regular size dies, and then the bottom shelf has my large dies as well as embossing folders, stencils, those types of things. Unfortunately, I need to look at buying a bigger cart. I might get the larger one from Michaels because I did buy quite a few new stamps and dies recently again for Christmas. So I've kind of outgrown that, but I just store that Raskog cart in a closet with a sheet draped over the top, and kind of cinched up at the bottom. And that way, when it comes time to start making for Christmas, I have a cart next to my desk with all of my stamps and dies right there. I hope that answers that question. I hope that was what you were asking. I don't know if anybody else has any other questions, but that is basically how I prep and craft for each holiday. If you guys like, I can show you once I start working on St. Patrick's Day what I have for that. It's a much smaller bin, but I will do a very similar approach. I just don't have enough stuff for St. Patrick's Day to stand it up and do it like this. In fact, I think my St. Patrick's Day stamps are in here right now. There's only one in there. I know I got some out and started coloring some images, but I just don't have this much stuff for St. Patrick's Day. But I will possibly still use a bin this size to keep everything, so then I could just put like my stamps off to the side and my dies all in one bin. I just really like this system because everything's right there at my fingertips and I can see it and it pushes me to use it. And it's easy when I'm done just to take everything, switch it so it lays flat and, put the caps on everything and, like the lid on this and everything, and I can just put it away until the next year. So again, if anybody has any questions, just let me know. I feel like I'm beating this to death, but I know there's a lot of questions about, the storage and how, I make it a working storage. That's kind of what I call it. So it's all stored in a way that I can just grab it and work with it the way that it is. And I can just put the lid on and put it away when I'm done. And everything's always all together. So thanks again for tagging along. I will see you guys soon with some projects. And I will talk to you then. Bye.